Yo, 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 hey, howdy, ho, what's going on, good friends? Hope you're having a great, fantastic fucking day. I know I am. I don't know why I just picked up my house keys, but that's neither here nor there. We're here talking about the Karate Kid. And the Karate Kid? Wait, what the fuck? No, I'm joking. That was a really
I think
bad
we got to
joke.
start calling it Karate Kid 5 since technically it's now part of the same continuity.
Or we can just do like Karate Kid 10 and really fuck with everybody. But no, we'll just say like 84 version or like 2010 version to like distinct the two.
Yeah.
Because this past weekend, like Karate Kid 6, Karate Kid Legends releases in theaters, which don't know how I feel about that, especially after hearing about all the reviews. But I know you weren't a
Yeah.
big fan of, or not a big fan, but you hadn't watched Cobra Kai. I
No,
love it though.
I've been waiting to watch it, and I am gonna start watching it pretty soon since it did just end. But yeah, I'm excited. I mean, I've heard great things about it. I'm still excited to see Karate Kid Legends, even though I haven't heard like great things about it. I think mostly it's been mixed, but I've heard some people say that it's fine, and so I mean, it can't be worse than like the third or fourth one.
Uh, dude, I would not put my money on it just yet. Just give it time. I don't know when I'm gonna see it, but I'm gonna see it eventually. It
I'm
might
probably
just
gonna
have.
wait until it
I
comes
was
out
about to
until
say
it's
it might have to be
streaming.
like a streaming film for me because
Yeah,
honestly, I don't think I have the enthusiasm enough to go watch it when there's like Mission Impossible still out and I stuff. I'd rather see that
yeah,
instead.
that's kind of what I was thinking too.
Um, but like nonetheless, like I grew up watching the original 1984,
Same.
The Karate Kid, and yeah, when you texted me earlier about this film, like this is the most 80s film of all time.
It
I
is.
think that's what makes this film that much better.
Well, yeah, I think it's very interesting the time in which both of these movies came out because when I sent that to you, I hadn't finished the Karate Kid and I hadn't started the 2010. I'm gonna call it a remake because technically, when it came out, it was, and it is essentially the same movie, but just with a couple differences. But I wasn't prepared for how 2010 that movie was going to be either. So they're definitely products of their time, which I find super interesting, like watching in retrospect because I haven't seen them in a while, and I don't know about you.
No, I agree. I think me and you were speaking about this like last week. I hadn't seen the 2010 remake since like it released in theaters. And so my last memory of that was like, oh man, bro, this was really just kind of like ass cheeks. And well, I still do kind of stand by that.
I
It's
mean, I remember it wasn't bad. I mean, I still think it's not a
well,
bad movie either.
I will
It's
say the most redeeming thing about the 2010 film is the final like valley fight. I don't know what they call it in that film. Like that's the film does
Valley
all
Fight.
yeah, like
You mean the tournament?
the all Mountain High Valley, all Valley High, whatever the fuck it was called, tournament that they do in like the remake because that's the thing in the remake it's just kind of a random ass tournament that kids just do and they make it like a like somewhat of an important event in like the first 1984 Karate Kid. Like you feel stakes as opposed in the 2010 one. But
Mm.
when I was watching the 2010 one, I don't remember watching all of them just get like X-ray killed from like fucking Mortal Kombat, bro.
Yeah, I mean, I figured that the action was going to be a little more intense in the remake. But honestly, I was surprised by how good the original one still is today. Like it really holds up, and I don't know. Yeah, I remember the last time I saw it, not really being that into it, and I was kind of expecting to feel more or less the same this time around. But I don't know. I was into it. I don't know. I felt like I was rewatching or I was watching it over for the first time again, even though I've technically seen it before. But yeah,
No, I agree, and I think talking about these two movies is kind of hard to do individually because I'd mentioned to
yeah,
you before my kind of issue with Karate Kid 2010 is it essentially is that remake and it has all the same beats and ideas that the 1984 one has,
Just
but
not as better. I mean, not as good.
it just doesn't commit to anything. Like it still has the whole thing in the third act with I'm just that's the thing is I don't even know what to call the dojo in the 2010 film because they're essentially like Cobra Kai is just a nothing type of dojo in this film. Like it's hard for me not to refer to it as Cobra Kai because I
Mm,
think they only referred to the name maybe once in the 2010 film, and it's not an easy name
trying to remember what
to
it is
remember.
called.
That's what I'm saying. And the 2010 film is littered with these. Oh, this is just that, but I don't remember what this film gave the name of it. Like the
Mhm.
love interest is essentially like the same exact character, but none of the chemistry between the two of them. It just does all these weird things. Like it just wants to be the first film so badly, but it feels like it doesn't take out any of the things that make that first one good.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely feel like it's like you said, it's trying to be the first one, but without like a lot of the nuance. A lot of it feels very like up in your face and not subtle, especially in the moments where they're like directly um callbacking the original. And I noticed it a lot when they reused dialogue from the first one
Oh, dude, it was
in
so
really
cringy.
awkward ways that I recognize. It doesn't help that I recognized that they were reusing the dialogue, but then it also didn't help that there wasn't much build up to it, as like I don't know, the build up to some of the moments didn't feel as natural as they did in the first one.
The scene that like comes to me in particular, like when you were talking about like what doesn't work about it, is the Miyagi scene, like towards the mix of the second into the third act when he's drunk and like Dre
Oh yeah.
slash Daniel comes in on him. And I this scene in both films I think is a great representation of how each filmmaker kind of viewed the film, if that makes sense. Like, I
Mm.
think the way in the 84 version it's directed is it's such a personal and intimate moment as opposed to the 2010 one where it's kind of just like like hitting you in the face that oh wow he's drunk and breaking this car that he's been spending all this time fixing up. I can only imagine what the issue is here. You know what I mean? It's oh his son and wife died in a car accident, and because it's a film and you have to show it because they feel like they have the need to show it rather than tell us. Because dude, that monologue with Mr. Miyagi and talking about his time in the war and him getting the notification or like the letter of what happened to his wife and like I forgot it was unborn child, right?
Yeah, she died.
Yeah,
She died
she
in childbirth, and
childbirth.
yeah, the baby was lost as well. It was a
Yeah,
childbirth complication thing.
but the way like there's no way to show it like you can a car accident, which is why I feel like they kind of cheapened the Miyagi scene in the 2010 version. I
Mm.
don't know. I felt way more heartbroken while watching Miyagi go through his pain and grief and seeing him and Daniel connect on that. They connected on a way deeper level than I think Dre and Mr. Han did in the 2010 version.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I That's probably my main problem because like the 2010 version is fine. Um, I mean, yeah, it's essentially the same movie. It's just I think because the bond between Jackie Chan's Mr. Han and Jaden Smith's Dre isn't as strong. That's why a lot of those moments feel kind of forced or like heavy-handed. Um, I I still kind of like that moment where they explain Mr. Han's backstory. I do agree it's not as good as the original one because in the original one, like you'd think that like the show versus tell thing, like the show version would be better, but I think it falters because in the original one, it's more heartbreaking because you understand like the historical context, and also that there was nothing that Mr. Miyagi could do about it. And then it recontextualizes it in this version where he's like actually involved in the accident that kills both of his wife and his son. Um but I mean, I still kind of like that moment. Like it's one of the better moments in the film because I still think there is a little better buildup because at least at that point, you know, Mr. Han and Dre have at least spent some time together. And he's been like training him and whatnot. Yeah, like, I like the way that I still like the way that it's written and directed in terms of like a lot of I don't know. It's one of the few moments where the film takes a moment to like stop and breathe and like let things sort of just play out naturally and more subtly, if that makes sense.
No, I agree. And it goes back to the whole thought that the 2010 version just does everything just worse than the 1984 version. Cuz my thing is like I like the moment and it's well acted, and I think like I was saying before, the show instead of tell aspect hams it up a little bit, but then it totally kind of throws me out once they start doing this whole training montage thing towards the end of the scene. I get
Mm.
the significance of what they're trying to convey with, oh, now they're really connected,
Yeah,
but it's weird. In the 84 version, it feels kind of obvious that Mr. Miyagi is filling in as that father role for Daniel as the film goes on.
yeah,
But in the 2010 version, the film is trying to get you to think that through their actions. Like by the end of that scene where Mr. Miyagi is explaining his wife and child, it feels like that scene from the original film, and it feels like it's that child and father, like not blood related moment you get in a film where they might not be related, but they get this sense of, oh, you're younger, you remind me of my child I could have been, like you see in the 2010 version when Mr. Han takes I think Dre to the Great Wall, and they're on the train, and he falls asleep on his shoulder and then on his lap, and you can kind of see that like Mr. Han rubs him like to try to coddle him. Like it's those sweet moments that make you think that it's this father son relationship they're trying to build off of. But then at
mhm.
the end, they're just like, "Oh, you're my best friend I could ever have." I'm like, "What?"
Well, I mean, both of those happen. That happens in both versions
Does
because
it? I don't remember Daniel saying best
no,
friend
yeah,
at the
because
end of the
remember,
film.
when he gives him, Mr. Miyagi gives Daniel the car, like he lets him choose which car he wants for his birthday. As they're talking, like one of the last few things of the last few lines of dialogue in that scene is him saying, "Oh, you're the best." It's the same. It's literally the same line of dialogue. You're the best friend that I've ever had.
Well, I
But
think
I
it's a
think
little
in the original one, it works a lot better.
because
One,
it's
because we've
earlier.
seen not because it's earlier, we've seen their friendship like change and evolve in a way that we don't really get to see in the 2010 version. But yeah, and then I think it helps that it's during like a celebration. And it because in the new version is it's just like they go to like check out the where the tournament's being held as they're setting up, and then Han gives him um the uniform or whatever, and like he gets a uniform in the original one, but there's other stuff going on around that I think like elevates it slightly more.
I will say, by the end of the film, I still think it accomplished the same as the first film. I felt like Dre did overcome what he wanted, even though it was still the same goal in wanting to be able to stand up to the bullies and show people that he's a fighter no matter what, essentially. I still felt that by the end, but I don't feel like I was as engrossed in their relationship, Mr. Hans and Dre, as I was by Mr. Hans and Daniels at the end.
You
Daniels
mean
at the
Mr.
end.
Miyagi?
Yeah, Mr. Miyagi. Sorry, did I say Mr. Hans again?
Yeah.
Yeah, damn, bro. I knew I was gonna do that too, because that's the thing that I don't know if this is a hindsight thing, but I I don't know if it's knowing that I haven't seen the film yet, so someone who's watched the film that maybe listens to this is kind of like asshole. Watch the film first, but I'm going to make assumption that Jaden Smith is not in the new Karate Kid Legends,
I mean,
and
I haven't heard
based
about him being in it.
no, but based off the trailer that this new kid is Mr. Hans like Daniel LaRusso makes me think that they're gonna kind of like acknowledge Dre, but he wasn't like the Karate Kid. You know what I
Even though this
mean?
is called the Karate Kid.
Yeah, yeah. Even though
Well, you
this
know
is
what's funny
called
about
the
that?
Karate Kid,
I don't remember the first one being called the Karate Kid.
I thought it was
Um,
just called Karate Kid.
that's what I thought, and so I was surprised that because I always associated the article in the 2010 version of the title being in that one and not being in the original one. But I don't know. I guess there's a lot of things that I just kind of got confused over the years. But no, yeah, I kind of hope he doesn't show up in Karate Kid Legacies because I he's not my favorite character in the series. Um,
I don't think he's anyone's favorite character
yeah, I
in
mean
any
he's all
series.
right. He's fine. Like there's moments that work and there's moments that don't. But I don't know. It's just
I feel like that's this the 2010 version as a whole though. There's a lot of things that like start to work but then it doesn't necessarily get there. Like it gets to
yeah.
the hill but then just before it gets to the top it starts falling back. And it's like a lot of the interpersonal character dynamics. Like I don't know why the screenwriters felt the need to make the mother a much bigger character in the 2010 one.
Is she that much bigger of a character?
Yeah, like at least in that first half, I feel like Taraji P Henderson is
Henson.
in yeah is nothing but in that first half of this film.
I mean, I don't know.
Like
I guess
they
technically
try to
she's
make a
in.
relationship between her, Dre, and Mister Hans like that was never really in the original, which I'm not saying you
I
can't
mean, they have
do.
like one scene together.
Yeah, but it's not something that I think they needed to do when they were trying to do a Cobra Kai thing again. Like they
Mm.
don't set up the like Mr. Miyagi and oh my god, why am I forgetting his name right now? John Kreese. You think I'd know that after the show as well. Um, but their rivalry, like even though there wasn't anything behind it, just their confrontation was a lot better than the Kreese equivalent character in 2010. Like it all feels very surface level. Like it doesn't feel like any of the characters truly have any hate towards each other or have any character motivations until the script tells them to. Like I just keep thinking about the ending of the 2010 one, like after Dre beats the bully. Like the bully just straight up smiles at him, shakes his hand and says good job, and then just says fuck the coach, essentially.
Mm.
But at the end of the 84 one, it gives you the ending gives you a better contextualization of the Cobra Kai unit as a whole and how John Kreese treated these children. And I think that's why it lets Cobra Kai work so well, is it gives you a better understanding that like even though they were kids, they were abused by John Kreese. And you get a
Yeah.
good sense of that in the first one without any of the stuff that like Cobra Kai or even like the second and third film kind of adds on afterwards.
Yeah, I don't know. I think that's kind of why I was confused when you said that the mother character is like a bigger part of this because she doesn't it doesn't feel like she does anything that different from the original one
She
in terms of like
doesn't, but she's in it
personality.
a lot.
Yeah, I mean technically she has more screen time, but it's not dedicated to anything important enough that I feel like her character is bigger in this movie than she is in like the first one. And I don't know. I guess I still think better in the original one because she's not in it more. Like I agree with that. because I feel like this movie needed to, in order to make it like including her or giving her more screen time to work. I think there needed to be a better payoff to it in the end, where like they kind of come to have like a better understanding of each other, like, as like mother and son. Um, but yeah, I agree that it mostly accomplishes what it sets out to do, and I guess that's to be like, a remake of the original one. But yeah, I don't know. This one will just won't be my favorite, and it doesn't help that we watched this one like right after watching the original one, and the original one is so strong of a movie that it's kind of hard to like enjoy the other one in comparison.
Yeah, like there's something about watching Daniel LaRusso get bullied that's 10 times worse than watching Dre just kind of just get smacked
Well,
around, you
I think the
know?
problem is that Dre, like as a character, he starts off very overconfident in himself. Like he's kind of cocky as a kid. And I'm not saying that's like a horrible character trait to start off with, but it doesn't help that now because they've moved entire countries and he's in a different culture, it comes off as more arrogant than I think it was intended to. Because you kind of see him like, I don't want to say picking on, but like the scene where he like gets his ass handed to him at the bucking like ping pong in the park. It starts out very like he's like, "Oh, I'm gonna, show these old Chinese men how it's done," and then I understand that it's intended to be comedic, but it comes off kind of arrogant, and that makes me not root for him as much as I do with Daniel Larusso, and even at the same time, like I don't think Jaden Smith's performance is strong enough to for me to really become attached to him as a character either.
Yeah, I agree. And then I think another issue to like tag on to that is you don't get the inner like triangle relationship between um Daniel. Oh my God, why am
You mean
I?
Dre, Mei Ying, and Cheng?
No, no, between Daniel, Ali, and Johnny, but and like the whole idea of like Cobra Kai kind of takes over not the town, but the high school.
Mm,
You kind of lose this sense of this community aspect in this new one. So by the time I feel like you get to the end, you don't really know what you're fighting for outside of just like, okay, I hope Dre stops getting bullied at this point. Because when you watch that 84 one, it's not really Daniel fighting for like his own respect, but he's fighting for Miyagi's respect because he's just seen as a little old man compared to
hmm
John Kreese, who's like this big bulky figure with a six pack, and he's like created these little hell spawns to fight
mm.
his war essentially. I mean, in the 2010 one, they literally say, um, "Oh my God, what is Cobra Kai's like fate like their line?" You remember?
No Mercy.
Yeah, like no mercy, no whatever the line is, but it's like
Mm,
no mercy, no gain, or whatever the fuck. They say that same exact line in the 2010 one, and it makes it even more confusing. And it leads to like, if you guys were just wanting to do this, why not just call them Cobra Kai? It still fits. Like there's nothing not putting it in changes in terms of what you're trying to do. And so
yeah,
I'm just like, guy, like it goes back to they want to like do the same things, but they don't want to commit to them, and I don't know
yeah.
why.
I think that's my second biggest problem with this movie is that you know, as Mr. Miyagi puts it, different but the same. Like they don't, you know, they have him go or they have the protagonist move to China and everything takes place in China, but they don't really do anything with that. Like it doesn't really change the outcome of any of the story, and that's kind of what I don't understand about this like as a remake like I don't know. I feel like it was a bad decision to follow the original one so closely because it makes this movie come off as a poor imitation. Um, and I there's a lot of things like stylistically and um, writing wise that I think kind of work here. Like I enjoyed the aspects where like they lean into like the Chinese cultural aspects, but they're not implemented into it enough for me to really like care. Um, and I kind of wish there was more of that. Because it really does feel like a waste to me. The only thing to me, it feels like the only reason they shifted it to China is so that they could like shoot there and like show pretty images and then get like Jackie Chan, like his casting to make sense. That's kind of what it feels like to me. It doesn't feel like they really had like a good reason to change the location of the story.
Well, to like kind of go off your point, I'm just kind of confused. Like, I know why they called it the Karate Kid. I'm just still confused of why they called it the Karate Kid
When it's all kung fu.
when it's all exactly when it's all kung fu. Well,
Well,
I'm not like a
that's
karate expert, but it's like there. If you're gonna do a totally different art, why are you calling it something that it's not? That's my thing. And going back to the whole culture thing and moving the set to China, it's just so I find it ironic to move the whole set location of the film to China. And the first character that Dre meets is the whitest fucking dude on this planet
mm,
that also speaks Chinese and helps him learn the culture, you
I mean, I
know?
wouldn't really say he helps him learn the culture. I
But
just
he
think
helps him
it's
learn the basics.
I don't know about
He
that. I
introduces
feel
him
like
to people.
I feel like the movie doesn't even do that, which makes his character, more pointless and,
It's a weird character to just
I
implement.
honestly I wish what you were saying was true because then there would actually be a purpose to his character other than just like, oh, in the original one when he first arrives at the apartment, there's someone who lives there who's friendly with him up until he gets his ass kicked. That's kind of what it feels like to me. I
Yeah.
didn't really it didn't to me it didn't feel like there was a point to his inclusion, that character. I don't even know his fucking name. That's how pointless he was.
I just
I
remember him
honestly
as
don't
super
remember his
white
name.
guy.
Yeah,
That's
he's
the only
just
way I
the
can
blonde
remember him.
white kid that
Yeah.
for some reason speaks, I think it's Mandarin they're speaking. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I think we should talk about the good movie.
No, yeah.
Cuz
I
I honestly don't have that much else to say about the 2010 remake. I like Jackie Chan like as an actor. I think he's good in this, but it's not enough for me to really, you know, want to watch it that many times over again.
well, the problem is that oh my god, I gotta look up the actor's name that played Mr. Miyagi.
Pat
Pat
Morita.
Morita, Pat Morita, who, dude, have you ever seen, dude, have you ever seen the interview clip of this man where he's doing the Miyagi voice and then he
Oh, and then he starts
transitioned
talking his
talking
regular voice. I
regularly?
have, yeah.
Dude, I always think of that video and it's the funniest thing, and that's the problem going back to the Miyagi and Daniel scene when he's drunk and talking about his wife and child.
Mm,
Is I sent you the clip from Community where fucking what's his name does the reenactment of the scene on stage with Annie's character, with Annie in
mm.
the show, and it's just the funniest fucking thing where he's just like, no, stop. And he's just doing like the whole accent, and I'm like, dude, what are you doing? So every time I watch that scene, I think of the Community episode where he just does the whole thing. Dude, it's just so funny. But man, dude, every time I watch this film, it's just like a fucking blast of nostalgia just thrown into my face. I love this
Like
film.
in terms of like 80s nostalgia or like
It
nostalgia because you grew up on it?
just everything 80s. I grew up on it, and I don't know if it helps because of the Cobra Kai show. And like, bro, I think I told you this, like, dude, I was on the Cobra Kai train when it premiered on YouTube Red or YouTube, whatever the fuck their streaming service was.
Yeah,
because
YouTube Red, I think
because
it
yeah,
was.
because that was the funny thing, the first two seasons were produced by them and then Netflix bought them. It's just crazy to see how popular the brand became overnight. Because, dude, I
Yeah.
just remember watching it on my iPad, just thinking it was going 2 seasons because it was on the worst streaming service with one of like the least, like, not an unknown franchise, but not a franchise that I think people were asking to see like the villain of the first film to be the lead of. You know what I mean?
Well, I think that's what makes it like
Works so
sorry.
well.
Yeah, exactly, because and I think that's one of the things that Karate Kid Legacies doesn't have going for it, because the only reason they're doing it is because they know that they can make money off of it. And I think the thing about, Cobra Kai is that not only was it, intending to build off of the original films, but taking it in an interesting new direction. And like, yeah, Karate Kid Legacies looks, fine, but it doesn't it again, it looks like more of the same. Um and
Just two
Cobra
mentors
Kai,
aside.
yeah, Cobra Kai just looks like a more interesting story than Legacies does. Um but yeah, I don't know. I don't know.
I don't know, when watching this back, I just found Danny and Allie's relationship to be so endearing that I just
Mm.
always kind of rooted for them throughout the film. I don't know if you felt the same.
I mean, yeah, I don't know.
I love
I was
Elizabeth
really
Shue as well. I
yeah.
grew up on her, so
I just found it interesting that while I was watching, I how do I even explain this? Like, I don't know. I guess I was expecting to not like it as much and to be like, "Oh, this is kind of cringy," or like, "Oh, this is a product of its time." And I don't know, I just got really invested in the characters again, and like I forgot how endearing all of the relationships are. Like, yeah, I really like the relationship, like the romantic tension between Daniel and Allie, but then also again, like how we were highlighting earlier, the the father son bond between Daniel and and Mr. Miyagi. I don't know. All of it's just so great. Like every relationship feels like fleshed out.
yeah, and each character feels like their own. I don't know if that
Yeah.
makes sense
No, like
because
they're unique.
yeah, like when we're watching Allie, like it's the small things with her conversations with Daniel in the beginning when like they first like start flirting throughout the hallways in the school, is like when Danny's just kind of like pushing her away because he knows the like consequences of talking to her because of Johnny. And it's
Yeah.
those small moments of her going back at him and like, no, I'm my own person. Johnny doesn't make those decisions for me. If I want to hang out with you, I will. Like that moment when they all pull up in the car, like
Yeah.
the whole time you're actually saying, Daniel, you're fucking stupid, bro. That's what I like. The film actively makes you root against Daniel, but not in the same way that I like you were saying with Dre.
I don't know. I just really liked all of that stuff. Like there were moments where I was like, cuz I forgot how long these movies are. I was expecting the original one to be like an hour and a half, but it's actually like 2 hours. And then the Karate Kid 2010 is
Two and a
for some
half,
reason
bro.
it's like 20 minutes longer than
No
for
reason
some
to be.
reason.
And it's got
But
less content. That's
well,
what
no,
I
I
don't
that was
get.
funny. Actually, that was something that I forgot to mention. I remember like watching when I started watching the 2010 version earlier this morning. I was like, "Damn, this is kind of like it's kind of got like a brisk flow to it for some reason, but it's somehow longer." But yeah, the thing that I really liked about this one is that even though it's not as long, it still kind of takes its time to like plant all those seeds. But I remember myself getting a little frustrated because I was like, oh, I don't really want to see more of like the Ali Daniel dynamic, because I did to me it didn't feel like there was anything more to say about it. But then the movie like gave me something, and I was like, oh, this is actually really interesting. Like I want to see this scene continue, and it didn't feel like I was wasting my time in the same way that it does when I'm watching the 2010 remake. And then yeah, I don't know, all of that stuff works really well. I like the dynamic of, like, she's, like, from the hills and he's from Reseda, and then, like, the parent dynamic with her as well, that I think that works a lot better than it does in the 2010
Dude,
remake.
don't even start with me. I totally forgot about that until you started mentioning it to me because the when I was watching it in the 2010 one, I straight up forgot that it was like due to class. I straight up thought it was like racist for a second. Like I had to think about it. Like
Honestly, I'm
I saw the
surprised they
movie
didn't
and
go for that.
that's what I thought they were going for because it'd been so long, and I had to take a second. I'm like, wait a second, does the dad not want his daughter to go out with Dre because he's black and he's from America? That's genuinely what I thought the
Honestly, I
movie was
honestly
going
would have
because they
preferred
don't give
that.
you, bro. They don't give you any context though as to like what the father's issue is. Because then once he like Dre goes to the father, Dre like speaks what was it?
Broken Mandarin.
Broken Mandarin. Yeah, and like the father's like, "Yes, my daughter made a promise to you. Of course she'll come. She always keeps her promises." You're just sitting there like, "Brother, what?"
I know he wins him back over so easily. Um, I do like that they use that to kind of further his relationship with Mr. Han, but as far as his relationship with, the love interest, Mei Ying, I I don't know, it felt a little flat, and I like the tension in the original one, so much more. It's just handled so much better, and you see, like, the conflict in their relationship with each other grow and how they kinda overcome that by themselves. And it because it doesn't even bring back up the parents. They're just like, "Fuck the parents, I don't give a shit." And you as the audience are like, "Yeah, fuck the parents, we don't give a shit." And that's missing, but I don't wanna get too we did this on the last episode with Mission Impossible, where we just kept, like, digging at, Dead Reckoning. I don't wanna talk I want people to know that The Karate Kid stands on its own in terms of, like, I don't wanna constantly be comparing it to the to the remake.
Yeah, no, I agree. That's the problem. It's just so hard to when they're damn near
The
the
same.
same film, but the second one, it's so similar, but the second, like the remake, just does everything worse in a slower manner somehow. Like that's really what it is,
Mm,
and it really just bugs me because the first one I don't know what it. I don't like I said. I don't know if it's the hindsight of watching Cobra Kai and kind of being in that mix right now,
mm.
but this one just really just stood out to me. I fucking love this one so much,
It's so good.
and it's just hard to compare, and that's why I think it's a weird choice that they decided to try to remake it. This is one of those
Yeah,
films where it's just like you're just gonna just do not do injustice to whoever's film you're trying to remake. You're instantly not
yeah,
going to be as good, you know?
yeah, and, yeah, I don't know, what's funny to me is that I honestly think, and I know I haven't seen it in a while, but I'm pretty sure even the next Karate Kid, the one with Hilary Swank, is, like, a better idea with, like, him training a new Karate Kid, like, the next generation or whatever.
The new
That
Iron Man.
It just seems more of an interesting direction than completely trying to, like, redo it in, like, a different setting. Um, but yeah, I like I said, I don't wanna get too hampered with, continuously digging at the 2010 remake, because there's a lot of things that I think the original Karate Kid does so well on its own. Um, and I don't know, I was honestly surprised at how, like, technically sufficient the original one was. 'Cause, like, I kinda remember, I don't know, I thought they used the camera in interesting ways, um, and that was what I really liked that about rewatching the original one.
No, yeah, I agree. I think for 1984, they shot the end fights really well.
Yeah, it looks great. I was honestly surprised
The
because I
choreography
thought
is really well done.
I thought that was gonna be the thing that I was gonna hate the most about rewatching it, that the fights weren't handled really well, and I kind of got that sense because there's not a lot of karate stuff in this for a movie that, has that in
Is
its
about
name,
karate. Yeah.
but like, the tournament, it's not very long, like, the climax of this movie is maybe 20 minutes, if even that, and a lot of it goes by very quickly, but then when we got to, like, the main fight, like, between in like the semifinals and whatnot, that's kind of where they decided like, okay, we can take a breath here, like we just need to get through like the preliminary stuff, and then we can really show them like doing their stuff. And to be honest as well, I think Ralph Macchio and what's the guy who plays Johnny, what's his name,
William Zabka.
yeah, William Zabka, they do a good job of selling the karate stuff as well. Like for how old they were and the time that this came out, I think they're really good at it.
I do also think you undersold the second best movie montage in history with the beginning, "You're the best around," and then he just like
Oh yeah, yeah.
continuously beats the fuck out of everybody, and then he has to get to Johnny Lawrence, but then they try to cheat, but no, 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 Daniel fucking Larusso is not having that.
Yeah.
Like there's just something so fucking impactful about the ending that
Mm,
I don't know. It's great seeing Daniel overcome it, and it's the best underdog story, and that's why I think it works so well. Is it?
yeah.
It kind of feels like a character, Daniel Larusso, that we can all put ourselves in
Yeah,
some manner.
yeah. I've felt Daniel LaRusso was extremely relatable.
Yeah, dude. Like I get it. Like I'm not from Jersey, but I'm from fucking Long Island, New York,
I
moving
did
all
see
the
a
way
little
out
bit
to
of
the
him in
West
you, I'm
Coast.
not gonna lie.
Yeah, yeah, bro. That's what I'm talking about. So I'm sitting there. I'm just like, damn, bro. Now, I used to do karate. I don't do karate no more.
Oh, I remember
But
you told
I
me that.
told you guys that like I got a bunch of trophies from when I did
That's
karate,
fucking
bro,
hilarious.
from sparring and shit. So I watched this movie and like it's not as like cinematic, but I'm like, dude, I could be Daniel fucking Larusso if I was like maybe 25% more Italian. Like,
Yeah, I don't know, I think that whole ending is just great, like, the even though it's kinda short, it's really great, and just as you keep watching it, you just start getting more pumped, and then those moments where you see Daniel kinda, like, struggling, and even, like, the fact that, like, neither of them really know what they're doing, like, I like that moment where, Daniel realizes that Mr. Miyagi has never been to one of these tournaments, and he's just like, "I'm dead. I'm going to die."
yeah,
It's
he's
just
just
it's
like, I don't
so
know, I'm going
funny,
through it.
and then that leads into, like, oh, they're in unknown territory, and then you kinda just see, like, the win after win up until the moment where, like, they cheat, and, I think what is his name? Tommy, I think? He's, like, forced to
Like do an illegal
injure him.
move.
Yeah, do an illegal move. I really like that stuff, and I like the moments where, you kinda see them questioning the orders that they're being given, and I like that they don't, like, go into it very much, but you see that, like, picture and plaque in the Cobra Kai dojo where it hammers home the point that, like, John Kreese treats it like a boot camp and treats it like a military thing when that's not really what it's supposed to be. And then, yeah, you see them questioning the things that they're being told, and I like that as soon as he injures Daniel, that kid is just like, you see that he realizes he made a mistake, in harming this other person, and then he even, like, goes down onto the floor and he's like, "I'm sorry, Daniel, I'm really sorry." I don't know, yeah, I just really love those moments that the filmmakers are, like, meticulously, like, just, like, sprinkling in, like, "This needs to be here."
And I think that's why, like, going back to the whole, like, fundamental basics of, like, Cobra Kai,
Mm.
and never, they give you just enough, I think, between all three of the Karate Kid films to kind of piece together why John Kreese turned out to be the way he was with, like, his war background. Like he obviously has got a shit ton of PTSD.
Yeah.
Like, but like going back to what you were saying with the kids feeling bad about what they were doing, and I just love that scene after he hurts Daniel and they're in the locker room and him and Miyagi are having that scene where Daniel's just kind of breaking down crying and Mr. Miyagi's just like, Daniel-san, like, I'm here for you. It's a really fatherly moment that
Yeah.
is really heartfelt that I don't remember being as heartfelt as I did last time, because when Mr. Miyagi's denying Daniel going back and saying like, you don't have to prove anything, you've proved everything you've needed to,
Mhm.
and the only reason why he's saying no, I don't want to, is showing you that fundamental difference between Miyagi and Kreese is, I'm not here to have you be hurt or get hurt or hurt someone. And it's that whole
Mhm.
fundamental idea of Miyagi karate, right? It's not about hurting someone, it's not about fighting, but it's about respect, discipline, and like kind of an orderly conduct type of idea. And so when Miyagi's just like, no, I'm not doing this because I know you're gonna hurt yourself more, is like it's going past the what the whole idea and fundamental of karate's meaning of it to Miyagi and what he's taught it to Daniel, but
Yeah.
it's now gone into that fatherly son caring that brings their relationship to a whole nother level once he does kind of trust Daniel and does do the like cupping stuff to Daniel to get him out there. Because dude, once Daniel goes out there and does that final move, I don't think I can ever watch something so fucking satisfying and gratifying. Like, I don't even know which word to use, because you just feel so fucking gratified once he comes out. You see him hopping on one leg. He does the crane stance that he's been learning throughout the entire film. And I love how throughout the entire film, you're kind of questioning the, the need for it. And like, yeah, the film does write in an actual need, because let's be real, most of the time are people going to go out on those injuries and really do that? Probably not. And are those injuries not going to just be broken legs at that point? Probably not. So to go past that, it's just so satisfying to see him just do that whip kick and just drop him, bro. So fucking hard on the mat. You just want to like go up and cheer, and it's so nice to watch that type of ending, because I think a lot of films, like especially nowadays, don't know how to like do that, where you're rooting so hard for the character, where you do want to stand up and like kind
Yeah,
of
they
like
don't
as
earn
if
it.
it's yeah, as if it's a real event, you know.
Yeah, this movie really earns all of its, like, plot beats and accomplishments, like, the achievements that the characters go through, and I think that's why it works so well, like, even though, I'm sure, like, by today's standard, nobody would maybe shoot it that way or direct it that way, but it just feels like it regardless of that, despite all of that, it still works really well, and it's kinda timeless, um and I think that's the best thing about this movie is that, regardless of the, limitations or whatever, it's still a very endearing and, um, what's the word I'm like? I guess engrossing film.
Yeah, no, I agree, and I think that's like I love the idea of coming back to it as a franchise.
Mm,
But man, dude, I don't know. I think I think it was just so random for them to hit gold with Cobra Kai that I just don't know if they're able to do it again, because after this first one, they the second one's solid, the third one's
I
solid.
remember liking the second one.
That's what I'm saying. They're all solid, but they're all essentially just different incarnations of that first one, right?
Mm,
And they don't. Nothing has ever been different. And yeah, the Cobra Kai, there is like the All Valley tournament, like there is in the first one and in the third one,
mhm,
but there's just so many different other problems outside of just karate that I think the show does so well, that I think is very reminiscent of the first one. That the film, while it's called The Karate Kid, karate is kind of like the second or third thing about the film.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, that's what I really like about this movie and this series as a whole is that, you know, and that's kind of Miyagi's big point is that like, it's not about fighting, it's a way of life kind of like he says like, everything about karate is like when he's having that conversation about balance in karate, he's like this also applies to your everyday life.
It's about balance.
Yeah, and that's what I like about this series is that the drama is as investing as any fight scene would be in any of these movies. And I think that's what elevates it as, a film. And the thing that I think the remake doesn't succeed in is because it treats it more like your average kind of like action movie, you know what I mean? Um, but yeah, I think I'm gonna watch Legacies when it comes out, or when it becomes available on streaming, and maybe we can do another conversation about that one and the other sequels. But I don't know. I don't know. It's just an interesting choice to not have it be related to Cobra Kai and have it exist in its like own continuity with the films. Um, and yeah, I don't know. I just think that's kind of a weird decision.
I feel like that's a lot of the franchise as a whole. Well, that was a weird decision.
Yeah.
Um, but any final wrap up thoughts before we get to our grades
Ratings.
and then what we're watching next week?
Um, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. I guess just overall, it's a very heartfelt movie that doesn't feel too like, yeah, I guess like heavy handed. Um, and I don't know. I just really like a lot of the relationships in it. I really felt it. Like all of the emotional beats, they landed so well because the movie sets them up so well. And then when you get to those moments, like the moment where we learn about Mr. Miyagi's like tragic backstory, I don't know. I felt the tears welling up. I don't know about you, but I really did. And it just and then yeah, when you get to that moment at the end where he finally wins, it feels like um such a relief and such a fuck, what's the word I'm looking for? I don't know, I can't think of it. But yeah,
What would you grade it?
I gave it a 4. A 4 out of 5.
Okay, we have to start doing tallies on this. I think this might be the first film where we give it the same exact grade. I give it a four out of five as well. I think that works wonders when me and you like agree when it comes down to the stars on something.
Yeah.
Um, because going off, I agree with everything you'd said. I just love all the inner character dynamics and their relationships, and it makes the ending that much more rewarding.
Yeah.
Because when Daniel does win at the end, it doesn't just feel like Daniel won, but it also feels like Mr. Miyagi won, in which you
Yeah.
don't get that same sense with Karate Kid 2010. Um, and honestly, it's like you were saying, one of the most endearing films that I think I've watched in my life, and it's something that I think is honestly rewatchable any point in our lives, and
Yeah.
will never not be an entertaining film. And seeing someone overcome um, those triumphs. But yeah, what are your final thoughts and grade on the Karate Kid 2010, Leah?
I don't know, I've kind of been struggling on what rating I want to give cuz it gets slightly better as it goes on. It's just like I still think it's kind of like a fun movie, if that makes sense. It's not as resounding of an experience as the first one is. So I don't know. I guess maybe I'd give it a 3 out of 5. Like it's still all right. Like we said earlier, it kind of achieves what it set out to do in terms of like the story. But I mean, it's kind of hard not to because it is practically a carbon copy of the original one. It's just not told with as much nuance, I feel. Um, and yeah, I just think some of the direction they decided to go in doesn't feel as um interesting, I guess, as it could have been. Um, but yeah, that's I guess that's what I would say.
I definitely feel like I'm a little bit bitter on this one, more so than you are. I gave it a 1 out of 5, just
Okay,
because, just bro, I'm standing on that.
that's a little much, bro.
Listen. I'm standing off the idea that it just shouldn't have been made.
No, yeah,
You
no,
know
a
what I
hundred
mean?
percent,
And
yeah.
that's the biggest thing is I I can't sit there and watch it and ever justify watching it because there is a
Mm,
20 times better film
yeah.
made 30 years prior.
I
Um
mean, yeah,
and that's my issues. I can sit here and say, yeah, this is good, that's decent, but I don't know how you have a whole film that you're copying and you somehow make it 20 minutes longer and 3 times as shitty.
I wouldn't go that far, but I mean,
I don't
I
know, dude.
understand what you're saying.
None of the character relationships really work. The love interest non-existent. The bullying and Cobra Kai relationship, not only with Dre, but like with Mr. Han and the whole community aspect, doesn't really feel like there's anything there, and it all kind of just leads up to a kind of 13-year-old Mortal Kombat fight, which is the best compliment I could give the film. Because, dude, I was sitting there watching this, the ending, on my, like, hands on my face, like, oh, dude, he just fucking murdered that kid. How'd they allow that? Like, dude, he literally picks up one kid in the air and just drops him with his elbow straight into his lungs. Like, how is that legal for 13-year-olds? I don't care what country you're in. Like,
I don't know. I mean, I understand what you're saying, but I guess when I'm rating it, I try to rate it sort of on its own, like on its own merits. Like I still think there's enough here to make it watchable. Not as watchable as the first one. And obviously if, you know, given the choice, there's an obvious one that you would pick over the other. But I mean, like, as a movie, I feel like it's fine. It's not the worst movie I've seen, even though there's things that I, don't really like about it. There's a lot of things that I feel, given the time that it came out, are fine and work. Like someone who's never seen the other ones or doesn't really care about, you know, the franchise as a whole would probably watch this movie and just be like, "Oh, that was fun. That was a fun kids movie." Um but it's not bad enough to warrant that low of a grade in my opinion, and it's kind of the same way I feel about like other movies because like we've had like and even on this podcast you and I have given like very different like ratings on movies that we both agree are bad. um but I think there's things that I feel are still worth saying are decent or good about them.
yeah, no, I know I'm definitely a little bit harsher on the 2010 one, just because like I agree with the whole basing it off like its own merit, but it does nothing for me to have it all base off its own merit because it's not doing anything on its own. It's all off the back end of something that like it can't even do at the same level, and that's the thing that irks
Yeah.
me is because I haven't even looked at the budget, and I'm really afraid to because I'm going to right now.
The budget was $40 million,
That's
and the
disgusting.
budget for the original one was $8 million.
That's dude. That's disgusting.
It
That's
made
illegal. That's criminal.
this one. I mean, it still did well. Like it had almost a $400 million box office. But
Where
I mean,
did
honestly, I'm sure that was helped by the fact that it
I was
was
about to say, what was the split of it in countries? Like, how much came from the U.S. and like China?
let me
Because that was
see.
also at the time when the Chinese like box office for
Yeah.
American films was like starting to boom. So I'm
Mhm.
curious if like it being based in there with Jackie Chan had like a big effect on the box office.
All right, so there's not like a country by country breakdown, but as far as Wikipedia says, it closed its release with 176 million in the U.S. and Canada, and then an additional 182 million overseas. So about half and half. Like North America made half, and then overseas made the other half. But I'm assuming a
I
large
would
majority of
came
that
from
is
China,
probably
yeah.
from China. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's safe
Um,
to say like 45% of that number just from them.
I mean, I'm sure it would. It doesn't make sense to me that it wouldn't have done well because literally in the opening credits it says that like the Chinese Film Association or corporation or whatever like helped produce this.
Oh, then definitely.
And so I'm sure that
Yeah.
having it be set in China, shot in China with a popular Chinese actor, Jackie Chan, I'm sure that did wonders for the box office.
Yeah.
um, but yeah, what were we talking about
Nothing, Liam. What are we watching next week?
next week? Next week we are talking about the John Wick movies. Not all of them, but uh, Ballerina is coming out, and so we figured we would go back and talk about the start of the franchise with the original John Wick. Which when did that movie come out? Like what, 2014?
Yeah.
Yeah, 2014.
2013. Oh, 2014. Okay.
And then we will talk about John Wick 2, which came out fucking
Like
a whole
2
3 years later in
came out 3 years?
2017.
Holy
Yeah, it
shit.
came out in 2017. So yeah, stay tuned for that. Love those movies. I know Ryan, you're not as big of a fan as I am, but
No, I think they're a good time. I just think Thor's a lot.
I don't know. I think it justifies, but we'll talk
We'll
about
talk
it. So
about it
yeah,
next week, bro. We'll talk about it next week.
come back if you want to hear our hot takes on the John Wick franchise.
All right. Have a great one, guys. Peace.
See you guys next time.